Okay, so data on experiences of crime amongst a sample of people in your area. Operationalise, so old ladies might eat sugar, plum, crumble anytime. The O is operationalised. Serena, the L is? Don't worry. Leah, do you remember?
Literature review.
What is it, Serena? Is that again?
Literature review. Literature review.
Operationalise, okay? Literature review. Connie, the M is? Method. Olivia, the O is? Oh, wait, what O? The E, sorry, the E is? You were right. Yeah, you were right. I don't know why I said O. Apologies. Amina, the S is?
Sample.
Yes, it is. Emily, the P is?
Pilot.
Pilot, yeah. O and the C is?
Content.
Ooh.
I collect.
Yeah, so thank you. Julia, the A is? Analyse. Lovely. So, operationalise. We're going to do it together. I know you've seen them. You need to see them live. We just need to drill them in, okay? So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to operationalise. The first thing, and this is literally me writing the paragraphs I would write in the exams, which you're going to do it too. The first thing I'm going to do is operationalise. Could you count for me, Roman? The first thing I'm going to do is operationalise the term crime. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to operationalise, Connie, what term? Good. I'm going to operationalise the term crime. Could you count for me, Manny? First thing I'm going to do is operationalise the term crime as any act. I'm going to try and measure it. I'm going to operationalise the term crime as any act that breaks the law. That's quite simple, but yeah, I'm just going to operationalise crime as any act, as any act that breaks the law, like. Tell me some. I'm going to put theft. Yep.
Murder.
Theft. Feels a bit heavy. So maybe like, because if we're going to do it on young people, so their experiences. So we can do theft, vandalism, quite common. Most common types of crime. Maybe it's because I know the most common types of crime. And the most common is theft, like your bike, vandalism, graffiti, theft, vandalism, harassment, really common, sadly. Breaks the law, like theft, vandalism, harassment, and assault. Assault also, sadly, much more common. More likely in men. Men are more likely to be victims of crime by people they don't know, not women. Much more likely to be victims of crime by men they don't know. Women is much more likely to be someone you do know. So, I'm going to operationalise crime as those terms. This makes these terms. This makes these terms measurable. This makes these terms measurable. And increases, operationalising makes these terms measurable and increases the, what does it increase? Validity. It increases the validity. And it increases the validity. Operation has taken that term and it's made it measurable. It increases the validity. As both the researcher and respondent, as both the researcher and respondent will have the same, they will have the same understanding. It increases the validity because both the researcher, me, and the respondent, Emily, will have the same understanding. It means there's less bias or opinions. We have exactly the same. Susanna, sorry, you're at the end of writing, but we have exactly the same because I've used increase less bias or opinion due to the objective indicators. I've used objective indicators. I've said theft, vandalism, much more valid, and there's less bias or opinion due to the objective. Serena, due to the objective indicators, the list you gave them about what you consider to be crime. However, this is a sample of people in your area. However, I'm going to operationalize my area as within 15 miles of the college campus. But I'm also going to operationalize the area was within 15 miles of the college area. So I'm going to operationalize crime, which is what I've done, and the area. And this decreases. I said I'm only going to do the areas within a 15-mile radius. As if you're only going to do the college, people at the college. It decreases the
Sample size.
Decreases the sample size. And therefore, the representativeness and ability to generalize or apply results. Because I can't do what I'd normally do, which is say young 16 to 19. Oh, look what it's done. It's reduced the sample size. I've had to be a bit more creative and say I'm just going to do the area as like a 15-mile radius, and that will lower the rep and gen and the sample size. Okay, that is paragraph 1. Operationalise, taken that term or concept and made it measurable with objective indicators. The next paragraph starts with the next thing. The next thing I will do is conduct A. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to conduct a literature review. I'm going to conduct a literature review. Next thing I'm going to do is conduct a literature review, which is a... Anyone remember what it is? Literature review is a...
Large-scale review of secondary sources.
Thank you. It's a large-scale review of secondary sources. Let's thing I'm going to do is a literature review. I'm going to conduct a literature review, which is a large-scale review of secondary sources on... What's the question?
Experiences of crime.
On experiences of crime. I'm going to conduct a literature review next, a large-scale review of secondary sources on experiences of crime. This means I can ask more. Do I know where I'm headed?
Informed question.
Means I can ask more informed question. Means I can ask much more informed questions about different What's the question?
Experiences of crime.
I can ask more informed questions about different, I'm going to put types. You're not wrong, but I've already mentioned experiences, but I'm definitely coming back to crime. I can ask many more informed questions about different types of crime and the impact it can have. Examiner's like, yes. Yeah, I see you've regurgitated an amazing 30 marker. The teacher must have taught you well. But I see you're focusing on the topic we've given you, which is crime. This increases having more informed questions. This increases. Emily, do you know what it increases?
Having more informed.
Yeah, so me being more informed about the topic, so I can ask much more questions that are more informed, that are more educated, that are more wide. It increases the...
Can't think, sorry.
Don't worry.
Representatives.
Can't repeat it and get the same. You're warm because you're in the right place-ish, but not rep. Can't repeat it. No? Increases that. Else?
Validity.
Increases the validity. I mean, it increases the... Increases the validity. Emily, it increases the...
The validity.
It increases the validity. So it's more accurate. It's much more accurate because the questions are much more informed. However, a literature review is incredibly
Time consuming.
Literature reviews are incredibly time consuming, and you often have to pay to access academic journals. Most people don't write books, they take a really long time. You have to pay to access academic journals. And as an A-level student, I don't have access to this research. You don't have access to academic research. You often have to pay to get to it. Or if you're a university, it's part of your fees. So you just put your login and then you can access everyone's academic research. Journals that were written last month, last year, last week. Books are out of date normally as soon as they're written, generally. Don't have access to that research. And you have limited time. And you've got limited time. You're an A-level student. Your time is limited. I could also develop a bias. I could also, after reading 6 months of research, develop a bias or form an opinion. Could develop a bias or form an opinion. And this could decrease, having a bias or opinion could decrease the validity of my conclusions. It could decrease the validity or truthfulness of my conclusions. For example, focusing on specific crimes. I could have a bias or form an opinion and focus on very specific crimes or victims. Statistically, people of colour are far more likely to be victims of crime. And working class, people of colour, young men for someone they don't know, and women by somebody they do. So I could develop a bias and really focus solely on certain types of crime whilst ignoring others. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Method. So, I will take a positivist approach. I will take a positivist approach to establish patterns patterns and trends. I will take a positivist approach to establish patterns and trends. And take a macro or
large scale
approach. I'm going to take a positivist approach. I'm going to establish patterns and trends and take a macro or large scale approach. I will conduct a they all are, but I like to use the full term. I will conduct a self-completion questionnaire. I will conduct a self-completion questionnaire because, Amina, what's the topic on?
crime.
Because crime, thank you, or because experiences of crime is incredibly sensitive. Because experiences of crime are incredibly sensitive. I'm going to do a self-completion question because experiences of crime is a really sensitive topic. And conducting an interview might cause a decrease in validity. Just explaining, this is a little bit more unusual because crime's a really hard topic that they've given us. I'm conducting an interview could cause a decrease in the validity due to an interviewer effect. Me being present and asking them about their experiences of crime could decrease the validity. So a questionnaire is far more appropriate given the topic is about crime. The closed questions. Make the research. Closed questions means the research is what happens?
Reliable.
It will. They can eventually do a mark in there, but the research, the closed questions are there. Don't worry, right? Legion. Quick. What are they, Maddie?
Fixed component.
This increases. What does it increase, Maddie? It increases the sample is a,
Great.
and therefore the increase.
Reliability.
That's their ability to repeat the answer. So it increases the sample size or group, so they're quick to complete. It increases the sample size or group, and therefore it increases the samples got bigger. More people, because it's so quick to complete.
I can't remember what it is, but I know what you mean.
That's right. It's the R and the G is what I'm after.
Representativeness.
Increases the representativeness or the ability to, Julia, the ability to, representativeness, ability to, okay, not rep,
Oh, no, sorry.
don't worry, ability to account for key differences based on
Class, gender, and ethnicity.
lovely, account for key differences based on class, gender, and ethnicity. Key differences based on class, gender, ethnicity, and therefore Julia, I can generalize results or make a claim. Count for key differences based on class, gender, ethnicity, and therefore I can generalise results or make a claim. The closed questions means respondents have to. The closed questions mean respondents have to. Approximate. There. Yeah. Approximate there. The closed questions also mean respondents are going to have to approximate their answers, and therefore, Romany, and therefore it increases. Increases the reliability because therefore that's it. Therefore, it increases answers, and therefore it increases the reliability as respondents. Romany, as the respondents are likely. I've already said what? Repeat. As respondents are likely to repeat. Tell me again. Repeat. And get similar or the same results. Closed questions mean respondents have to approximate their answers, and therefore increases the reliability, as respondents are likely to repeat answers and get the same or similar results. We have to do a full Grover T in the method section. We've done theory. Romany's done reliability. Maddie and Julie have done rep and gen. I mentioned validity, but it is a little bit more valid because there's no interviewer there. Ethics. Okay, we'll do objectivity. Self-completion questionnaires. Are more objective. Self-completion questionnaires are more objective. They're free from self-completion questionnaires are more objective. They're free from Susanna, they're free from or the researcher's opinion. Because there is no, what's not built?
Rapport.
There's no rapport. Rapport meaning? Relationship. Boom. Just enough. However, questionnaires, students always forget this, always forget it, and it's a bit of an own goal. However, questionnaires, so do give it a star for me, have a low response rate. However, questionnaires have a very low response rate. You sent it to 1,500 students, 7 did it. No one responds. Questionnaires have a low response rate, and this decreases the sample size. And it decreases, keep going, Owen, keep going. And it decreases the sample size because they didn't do it. Yes, you wanted to incorporate all different genders, ethnicities, social classes, fabulous. But it decreases the sample size and rep and gen because they just didn't do it. They didn't want to do it. Questionnaires are less valid because respondents can't explore the topic. They're less valid because respondents can't explore the topic. Amina, in there? In their own words. They're less valid. They can't explore the topic in their own words. And the closed questions might not have incorporated or have considered all the possible options. And the closed questions, the list I gave them might not have considered all the possible options. It might not be as accurate. On the ethics paragraph for this question, so I'm going to say, I will adhere to the... Owen, whose?
Yes,
I will adhere to the British Sociological Association's guidelines. I will write a statement outlining the research. So I'm going to write a statement that outlines the research. I will write a statement that outlines the research, making it clear. So I'm going to write a statement that outlines the research, but is going to make it clear that the questionnaire is asking about experiences of crime. So I'm trying to show you how we keep focusing on the questions. We get a lot of marks for that, like a lot of marks. So making it clear that the questionnaire is about experiences of crime. This means, just so you know, it'll be like the top of a questionnaire. So it'll be at the top of a paper copy. It'll be at the top of a Google one. This means the respondents will have fully informed consent, or it means the respondents can give fully informed consent. I know. Give fully informed consent. They give fully informed consent. They will understand all aspects. Oh, and they'll understand all aspects of the
research
before agreeing to take part. See how I'm forcing it into crime. The questionnaire will be anonymous. Of course it will. It's the nature of them. It's anonymous. No names. I won't request. And I won't request. I mean, what won't I request from them? Mm-hmm. Any? Amina, any? What won't I request? Any?
Personal details.
Ensuring?
Confidentiality.
This will also increase the validity. It's also going to increase the validity. As respondents know, and respondents know their identities are hidden. Respondents know their identities hidden. It's going to increase the validity. They're going to tell you the truth about their experiences of crime, sadly. I'll just make a quick note, because I'm honest, I'm not entirely sure how they would withdraw, because it's a questionnaire and you're not going to know who's who. All right. But we're just going to throw in there as a little token thing, as a weakness. However, I would give respondents the right to withdraw, just as a little note, little thing. However, we're going to give them the right to withdraw. I don't know, give them a number each. Going to give them the right to withdraw with a personalised number. But this decreases the sample size and Rep and Jen. Going to let them withdraw. Give them a number each, anonymous. But it decreases the sample size, Rep and Jen. Okay, almost there, folks, almost there. Sample. Sample. It doesn't say young, but I'm going to make you do young, because who else are you going to access? So, sample. I will use a sample of young people. I'm going to use a sample of young people's experiences of crime. I'm going to do a sample of young people's experiences of crime, because I can access this group. Of course you're going to do young, even though they didn't say young. If they don't tell you an age group, do young, because I can access this group as an A-level student. Of course you're going to do young. I can access this group as an A-level student at college. I'm going to do young because I can access this group as an A-level student at college. I'd ideally, I would use the college registers. Ideally, I would use the college registers as a sampling frame. Ideally, I would use the college registers as a sampling frame or list, and stratify. And use a stratified sample. And use a stratified sample where it's subdivided. That's ideally. However, I would require access. However, I would require access from the principal. However, I would require access from the college principal, who acts as a gatekeeper. However, I would require access from the principal, who acts as a gatekeeper, and they are unlikely to give me access, as there's sensitive information. They're never going to give you access. But ideally, that's what you'd want to do. So I'd have no choice but to do an opportunity sample. So I'd have really no choice but to do an opportunity sample. So in send or request to send, and all student email. So I would request to send an all student email with the questionnaire. So I would request to send an all student email with the questionnaire. However, this is likely to have an issue. However, this is likely to have an issue with what do questionnaires always have an issue with that students tend to forget? Always have an issue with that students tend to forget. Have an issue with a low response rate. However, there's going to be likely to be an issue with a low response rate. So I would produce paper copies. There's going to be an issue with a low response rate. So I would produce paper copies and give these out in the college canteen to increase my sample size. You have to tell them specifically how you're going to get students, which is incredibly challenging. Right. Last ones. Pilot. I will conduct a pilot study. So I will conduct a pilot study or a miniature version. I will conduct a pilot study or a miniature version or test version of my research. I will conduct a pilot study, so a miniature version or a test version of my research on my sociology class. And teacher. A miniature version on my sociology class and teacher. This is to test the questions are clear. This is to test that the questions are clear and easily understood. This is to check that the questions are clear and easily understood, and will ensure no misunderstanding, which increases the validity or it being more truthful or accurate. It increases the validity, ensures that there's no misunderstanding with the questions, that they're clear. However, pilot studies are time-consuming. However, pilot studies are time-consuming. And if I amend any questions, I can't use, and if I amend any of the questions, I can't use any of the data. Generated. And if I amend any of the questions, I can't use any of the data generated. Okay. Collect. So, I will send out an all student email and paper copies, as I've already said, in the college canteen. I'm going to send out the email, paper copies in the college canteen. However, there's an issue with a low response rate. However, there is still an issue with a low response rate. And it's time consuming, and there's an additional cost in terms of printing paper copies. Low response rate, and it's time consuming, and there's additional costs in terms of printing paper copies. Just last one, analysing the data, because I'll be using a Google form or survey. The electronic copies is going to be easy to analyse because I'm going to use a Google form survey. The electronic copies are going to be easy to analyse and interpret. But the paper copies will take additional time . The paper copies will take additional time. And I may still have a bias or lack objectivity due to the literature review. And I may still lack objectivity or bias due to the literature review, which could decrease the validity or accuracy or truthfulness.